Yo, I don't know why my profile picture is not coming up. Hold on. I'm going to leave and come back in. Hold on, y'all. All right, y'all. Here we go. All right. I hope everybody is doing well. And, this story is actually not new, it's just updated now. It's one of those stories I did see earlier this year, but I did not do any type of videos on it. So it's a real unfortunate thing. And I wish our people, before you jump out here and travel to other countries, that you would research and study what these countries are about and not just assume everything's going to be all right, you're going to be safe. That's not necessarily the truth. And this young man, I feel sorry, especially for his mother, because he was actually an only child. And of course, she is completely heartbroken over her son, went to Colombia, and he never returned home. And the whole thing is absolutely crazy. Look, y'all, let's be real. And I'm just going to speak my mind at this moment. I know there's a lot of chattering about what these people are like in the islands, especially in places like Haiti, Jamaica, and some people claim they're just so different from us and they're this way and that way. And that's true. Some of them are, but not all. I have met some really good down to earth brothers and sisters from the islands. In fact, I have some subscribed to me, and they have never, ever been a problem to anyone on my channel. They actually think just like we do. But when it comes down to immigrants, I think some of the worst ones come out of South America, y'all. I mean, look at the attitude of these folks that come here. They come across the border calling Black people lazy, saying that we want handouts and we don't want to work. And I'm like, you mofos ain't even working in your home countries. You're coming all the way here. And then when they come here, they claim to be better than us, which ain't no damn way. They come from those dust ball South American countries and they come here and they're better than us. I don't think so. But many of them come with that kind of attitude. Now, you may not agree with me. You may think it's the ones in the islands. I happen to think the ones that come south of the border are by far some of the worst that they are letting in the country. And just judging on their attitude alone, I would never want to go to their country. Because if the rest of the people are just like them that are coming into America, I don't want to be nowhere near their countries. I don't want to be there. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. But you know what? They'll even tell you, and I've heard this from many of them, they'll tell you they're the children of the conquistadors. And they will tell you, oh no, we're the children of the conquistadors. That's who we are. Those aren't our brothers and sisters, by the way. If they're telling you they are the children of the conquistadors, those are not our brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Because some of our people, they'll call everybody in South America an Israelite, and they're not. Remember, even South America was colonized. And that being said, No, they're everything coming out of there is not an Israelite. Okay, they had slave colonies in South America. So everything that walks out of South America is not an Israelite. And if that's what you believe, you are lost for real. You are lost if that's what you believe. All right. So y'all be careful about what you label an Israelite. Be very careful, because when these folks come in this land, they're not embracing us. It's all in the spirit. And if their spirit don't match ours, that is not our people. That is not our people. All right. Mm-mm. Just like in those islands, everybody across the islands are not our people either. Some of them are, absolutely. All of them, no, that's a stretch. They're all definitely not our people. And you got to understand, many of those Germans after World War II went into South America, Peru, Argentina. Some went into Brazil, and they mixed with the people. You think their offsprings are Israelites? Do you believe that? Shoot, when I was a child, I would still see. So every now and then they would show images of those former SS officers from Germany living in South America, having whole families and everything. So, in your mind, is that an Israelite to you? I have to ask, because some of y'all really think it is. That are those German offsprings down there in South America? Are they Israelites? Okay, because I don't know, because some of our people will believe anything for real. So I'm just saying, if I'm going on the attitude of these migrants that come over here and already feel a certain way about the people that are melanated in this land, that should be a clear indicator it might not be a good idea to go to those kind of countries. So I feel bad that this man has disappeared and he has not been seen for months now. And this is why you got to use good discernment before you pack your bags and go anywhere. Just look at the climate of those countries. Look at the racism in the country. Look at the slavery that took place. Because, yeah, you're going to still have the descendants of slaves there. And how are they getting treated? And many of them will even tell you that like the Afro Latinos get treated like crap in those nations. Those are not good countries for you to be in. It's not even a good country for you to go to select a wife from. Okay, let's say you do find a wife. What is her family going to be like towards you? I mean, don't make all kinds of crazy assumptions. So let's get into it. I feel bad for him. I really feel bad for his mother, because I don't know how much he fully understood about this solo trip he took to Colombia. So this was a man from New York, and he's no longer alive. He took a solo trip to Colombia. It took his grieving mother 5 long months to find out what happened to him. This trip took place back in February. So his name was Omar Watson. He made a promise to his mother before he left New York City for Colombia late February. Moments before he climbed into a ride share to the airport, they hugged in the kitchen of their Brooklyn home. She reminded him, just to be careful out there while he was traveling. So he had arranged to stay at an Airbnb. in Colombia. He made that arrangement, and that's what he was going to do. So his mother told her, message me when you get there. Her name is Hyacinth Watson. She's in the picture with him that you see on the screen. So she did this interview with CNN. He was 31 years old. He sent her a message after his first full day in Bogota, and that was on February 24th. And the second day and the third day, he did not check in on the fourth day. So she called him instead. It was the last time she heard his voice in the early afternoon on February 29th. Less than 2 days after that phone call, Omar was found dead in the bathroom of his Airbnb. Wow. So his American passport was on a wooden dresser near the apartment unit entrance, according to the report from the police investigators in Bogota. But his phone, iPad, wallet all vanished, according to his mother. And so began Hyacinth Watson 5-month ordeal to unravel the mystery on how her only child died in an unfamiliar country more than 2,000 miles away without her son's phone, which likely would have offered clues. The grieving mother was left wondering, how did he spend his final days? Was he alone when he passed? So they found him inside of a white stucco apartment building. So she said, why? Now, she got his luggage like months later. And she was wondering why his luggage, when it arrived, it had female clothes in it along with his items. He traveled alone. He didn't travel with a woman, but it was women's clothing in there. And she said it was all petite size. And she wanted to know, where did these clothes come from? Mm-mm-mm. So she, of course, have regrets. So she said not a day goes by that she didn't wish that he didn't take that flight. She never thought that was going to be the last time she would see her son alive. Of course she has regrets. If she could do it all over again, she would have talked him out of going there. So she said the toughest time was the 2 days of silence where she didn't hear from her son. She didn't know what was going on. So, mm-mm-mm. He was an online stock trader and entrepreneur that lived with his parents in Brooklyn. Watson was not tied to a desk job. His iPad was his business portal, and he took it everywhere he went, according to his mother. He was an avid solo traveler and had been to a handful of countries, including Japan, Brazil, Mexico, and France. After his 1 week stay in Colombia, he was planning to go to Portugal. He just wanted to see the world, any country he could travel to. This is what his mother said. I never ever imagined that his death would happen during his travel. Colombia is an increasingly popular travel destination for Americans and other international tourists. From January to June this year, more than a quarter of foreign visitors to Colombia were from the US, according to the nation's tourism ministry. it listed Bogota as having the largest percentage of non-resident foreign tourists. But traveling to Colombia, which is also has a history of racism against Black people, is not without risk. So, shortly before Watson's visit, the US Embassy in Bogota issued a warning about 8 suspicious deaths of US citizens between November 1st through December 31st. Last year, the embassy warned that robbers would drug tourists in the country, and they would give them a drug that they nickname Devil's Breath. Devil's Breath. Hyacinth Watson had seen the embassy warning and worried that her son had been a victim of foul play. It sounds like he was, especially, she's looking at female clothing in her son's luggage. Yeah, that just looks very strange right there. So she rehashed the last phone call over and over for any hints of health problems. He told her he'd vomited and had diarrhea for days, but was feeling better and getting medication from a local pharmacy. She recalls asking him why his breathing sounded a little slower than usual, but he insisted that he was fine. Yeah, it sounds like he's been drugged. She considered getting on a flight to Bogota to pick him up and bring him home to New York City. He gave her his Airbnb address at her assistance, but he told her not to worry. I'm asking if he wanted me to come there and get him. He said yes, but then he changed his mind. So I said, okay, he's a young man. Maybe he wants to stay a little while longer and enjoy his visit, she said. When he didn't answer her calls for the next 2 days, she knew something was off. It was unlike him to return. She said he always returned, any phone calls from her. It was very unusual for him not to return a phone call to his mother. So she contacted the US Embassy in Bogota and implored them to check on him at the address he gave her. On March 1st, the embassy called her with the tragic news. Wow. For the first few weeks after her son's death, Hyacinth Watson was numb. She and her husband felt adrift without him and unsure of how to navigate what felt like um, a bureaucratic nightmare. So she said there were some major language barriers when they were trying to find out during the investigation what happened to her son. They needed to figure out the logistics of sending his remains back to New York. The stunned parents also needed to plan his funeral, but without her son's phone, she didn't know how to share the awful news with his friends. Then the blurry documents started arriving from Colombia. The language barrier, she doesn't speak Spanish, left her struggling to interpret the meaning of what was written. The US Embassy in Bogota sent her the initial investigation report compiled by local authorities and dated February 29th, the day her son's body was found. A colleague from her job as a teacher assistant in Brooklyn sat down with her to help translate the documents. So it describes everything that led up to her son's body being discovered. In the report, a person described as a Bogota apartment administrator said he last talked to Watson around 4 p.m. on February 28th. The day after his mother called, the administrator told the police he could not be reached. So he entered the apartment the next day, that was on the 29th, and found him on the bathroom floor without vital signs, according to the report. Omar Watson was found in a kneeling position on a white tile floor, wearing a black cotton t shirt and slumped against the door frame, according to the report from police investigators in Bogota. The first responders noted the over the counter medication in the apartment, including some Unisom PM, an unopened bottle of Dayquil. So, and he was taking a Latin American version of Tylenol. And they said it appeared to be a brown stain vomit on the floor near the kitchen. The report said, apart from his passport and suitcase, there were no other valuables on the scene. And the cause of death was just listed as to be established. Finally, the family learned about the autopsy results. So his autopsy was done in Colombia. So for months, Watson tried to find out how her son died and what happened to his wallet and electronics. She called and emailed the US Embassy, which told her in March that the autopsy would be finished in 3 months. In her frantic search for information, she unsuccessfully tried to reach the owner of the Airbnb. The host of the Airbnb apartment listed in the investigator's report declined to comment. All right. CNN had reached out to them and they declined to comment about Watson. All they would say was sorry, but I don't have any information about that. Airbnb said such incidents are rare during the stays and has measures in place for hosts and guests, including a 24-hour safety line and an in app emergency services feature that connects users to the local law enforcement. Our hearts go out to Watson's family during this incredibly difficult time, and our team stands ready to provide such support. Boy, this is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. So, Watson told CNN in late July that she did not receive any autopsy or toxicology reports. I don't know what happened down there. I cannot get answers. I keep trying to get information, but nobody is listening to me, she said. An autopsy was done, but I have not received any results on the cause of death. So in early August, CNN reached out to Colombia Attorney General Office, which oversees criminal investigations. And in an email, a prosecutor for the agency said the autopsy reports was received for forensics investigators. Well, it was August, and they said the autopsy report was completed in April, but his mother kept calling and calling over to Colombia, and they wouldn't give her no information. But when CNN contacted them, they found out the autopsy was complete on April 24th. So they claim that he died as a result of an interlocular pulmonary. Okay. So they're claiming he died a natural death. That's what the authorities in Colombia is saying. This 31-year-old died a natural death. That's what they're claiming. So the forensic investigator ruled out signs of violence or trauma to the body. Well, all I got to say is if he was sick and I mean, all right, so let's say he did, where do the female clothes come in? So who else was in that apartment with him in order for female clothes to end up mixed in with his luggage? Somebody else had to be there. And I noticed they're not mentioning anybody that was with him. So how like with his mother, how did the women's clothes get in his luggage? So I don't know. It just seems like there's too many gaps in this story. You know, it's almost like you go through the story and you end up with more answers. I mean, sorry, less answers and more questions. That's what I meant to say. So, of course, she's not satisfied with the autopsy that they gave, at all. And she's upset that they didn't tell her what the results were back in April when they finalized the autopsy. She said she was calling Colombia all the time, but they didn't tell her nothing until August. Damn. But you got to understand these people, they don't see you as one of them, so they don't care what they do. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like nobody really cared. But now, in the suitcase, this is what his mother is saying. So it was 3 months after the funeral. FedEx delivered Watson's suitcase to Brooklyn, setting off a new wave of emotion. So she says she opened up the suitcase, and this is what she saw. Inside the suitcase was his clothes, along with dresses, blouses, pink sandals, silver hoop earrings. This is what his mother said appeared new. And while her son was social and made friends and did these social trips, he never mentioned being with someone in Colombia. But this is what was in his suitcase. And she said, I don't know of a girlfriend. And the suitcase made her even more confused. So she said that she had a lot of questions that the authorities never answered in Colombia. And that is odd. That is very odd that he would have those things in his suitcase. And even the authorities in Colombia, they're not even saying that he was with someone, but it sounds like he was. It sounds like he was not in that Airbnb alone. I wonder if that was the reason why he went to Colombia in the first place. He was meeting a woman there, perhaps somebody he was communicating with online. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of these brothers end up there. They end up um, meeting these women online and then traveling there, and it turns out to be tragic. But it just makes me wonder because there is a case right now. I don't know if it's out of Colombia or not. There is a case right now that they're putting out there where a brother went down in South America. I got to go look up the country. And you clearly see two women walking out of the location he was staying in, and that's where they found his body. So y'all be careful. One thing about our people, we're just too trusting when we really shouldn't be at all, you know? And I think this is where fathers should be talking to sons, or, you know, any influential male you have in your family that can talk to your son when he starts making these decisions to travel to foreign lands where, you know, racism is a huge problem, like we know it is in South America. You know, I'm not saying they're going to always listen, but you know, in some cases they just might listen and not just be quick to run to the South American countries. Yeah, I mean, you would think, Joyce Blizzard, yeah, you would think even in Colombia they would have cameras around, you know? I mean, not just at an Airbnb, but just on the streets in general, you know, where you can see who's coming and going. Oh, you're saying, Midnight, you said, Lisa, that was the Jamaican brother who went to Brazil. Okay, yep, 2 women drugged him. That's the one I saw recently. Thank you. You know, and yeah, they do have Afro Latinos, but from what I'm this is just my observation, when these guys, these passport bros go to South America, I noticed these women are not Afro Latina. They're not. They're always meeting with the ones that are light and bright. They're not the Afro Latinas. And that is an observation I have noticed for a while. When they go there, these women are absolutely not Afro Latino. They are, or Latina. They are your more of your conquistador offspring kind of women. Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, she said, you know, and that's another thing. Okay, so you got the female clothes, and she's saying that his cell phone has never been found. Okay, so how did his cell phone go missing from the Airbnb? That's why I said this could not be natural causes like they're saying. It couldn't possibly be that. So how did his cell phone and his wallet and just certain vital things go missing from the Airbnb? Somebody had to physically take those things out of that Airbnb. But his mother said those things have never been found. I think his iPad and his iPhone, yeah, it has never been found. Yeah, I mean, you never know what kind of person he met. You're right. It could have been a hooker down there. I mean, you just don't know. And it looks like whoever he was with, he didn't share that with his mother. It seems like whenever he was on the phone with his mother, it was like, "Oh no, I'm by myself here." You know what I mean? He didn't reveal it to his mother at all. And he could have been, you know, he might have been something he wanted to keep to himself and he didn't want to tell his mother. I mean, he's 31 years old, he's grown. He was not under any obligation to tell his mother if he was meeting with a woman there. Mhm. Yeah. Well, All I have to say is, if you look at stuff like this and your desire is to still go and meet some strange woman, then I guess it is what it is. But I mean, I understand because a lot of these guys, they're the ones that hate on black women and, oh, I'm just going to find something better. I mean, just because you go to South America, it doesn't mean you're going to find something better there. I am a woman. Women are women. I don't care where they're from. At the end of the day, that is a woman. That is a woman. And foreign women, I lived in Germany for a little while in my life, and those women weren't all that nice. Some of them were, and I got along with the ones that were around me, but to say they're all nice and they're all better, that's quite a stretch. That's quite a stretch. I think the biggest culture shock for me when I was there, the legal age over in Germany is 16. So it is not unusual for you to go into a city and they're working for a brothel, and you'll see them. And what they do is they put the women half naked. Sometimes they are nude. They put them in like these big store windows. So as the men walk by, they try to entice them to come in by putting these 16-year-old got next to nothing on in the window, and they just sit there posed in the window to get the guys to come in. And when I first went over there, I'm not used to seeing nothing like that. That was shocking for me. I'm not used to seeing, sometimes they were naked, just sitting there in the window trying to get the male clientele in. And when you see that, it's just, and you don't see that in your culture, yeah, that can be shocking to see for the first time in your life. And it was. It was it was very shocking when I saw that for the first time. And yeah, the guys that were in the military, and many of them were black guys, used to go in those kind of places. They would go in there. So they knew they could get the military guys, the Americans, in there spending their money. And they did. So I mean, it's different, you know. Another thing that was shocking for me when I first went over there, they have vending machines with alcohol, and here in America we didn't have that. At the time when I was over there, we didn't have that, but you could literally walk down the street and come across vending machines, and it would have wine and beer and all kinds of liquor in the vending machine. And alcoholism was big. It was very common to see drunk Germans. Let's just put it that way. It was real common to see drunk Germans, because they drink as children. When you go over there, when they're young children, they are already drinking alcohol over there. So alcoholism is a huge problem. Drugs is a huge problem in Europe, period. I don't care what part of Europe it is, drugs is a big problem. And another thing that's big over there that they don't talk about in church, because these folks always want to make it seem like they're a certain way or they're better because, because of the alcoholism that's over in Europe, there's a lot of domestic violence. Oh man, them men be beating the hell out of these women for real. The alcohol, yeah, the alcoholism leads to a lot of these men over in Europe. A lot of European men be beating the hell up out of women. It's a part of their culture they try to hide. But when you go over there and you're living around it, they can't hide it. But they try very hard to hide it. But it's definitely there, and it's there in a big way. Why do you think European women and Asian women are your biggest mail order brides. Why do you think that? Because a lot of the men over there are beating the hell out of them and they don't want those men, and they want, that's why they willing to cross the ocean and find a man in America. Just look at your mail order brides. And 9 times out of 10, if you research the country those women come out of, it's a lot of domestic violence. And that's why they don't want those men over there. They'll take their chance on an American man over the men from their country. Hmm. So, my brothers, be careful out there for real. You know, it's not worth you losing your life to go to a foreign country. It's not worth it. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely come together and do this again on another topic. Shalom, family.